Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bayt.com's Career Talk. I'm Hatem HANNOUN. Now in this week's episode, I want to highlight some key mistakes people make in their job search process. Now in the past, we've broken down episodes showing you what to do in different stages of the job search. But on this episode, I want to take you through some key mistakes. If you're not seeing the progress you're looking for in your job search, it's likely due to one or several mistakes you're making throughout. So I want to take you through some of them now. Let's start with your lack of structure and discipline. Without structure and discipline in your job search process, you will lose motivation, you will get frustrated, you will be confused, lost along the way, and you wouldn't know how far you've progressed. Now, you've heard this a million times, we've said it a million times, your job search process should be treated as a full-time job, so make sure you give it its time for each task, set objectives and targets for yourself so you know where you're heading. Another mistake a lot of candidates do is lack of research. They don't research the companies they're applying to. Now, job sites like Bayt.com make it very easy for you to apply to any job you'd like. But on the other hand, a lot of candidates end up applying to every job in front of them without really looking into these companies. Now, this ends up wasting your time, it ends up wasting the recruiter's time. If you were to spend some time looking into these companies and researching the positions, you'd be able to identify where you need to focus your efforts. You'd know where you can stand out amongst the competition. You'd know which positions can really utilize and really value the skills that you have. So spend some time researching the job descriptions, the companies, see where you align so you know where to focus your efforts. So that's number one. Another big advantage to researching companies is when you do get that phone call, you do get that interview, you're able to speak to the interviewer like you're an insider in the company because you've done your research so well, you know what the company's about, you know what's required from you in that position. A third mistake, poor CVs. Your CV is your introduction to the company. It's your first impression that you get to make on the recruiter. It's the way you market and advertise yourself to the position you're applying to. So you need to spend some time making sure your CV is perfect. And what I mean by this is at least the spelling mistakes, the grammatical errors that you make on the CV, make sure they're eliminated. Make sure the formatting is consistent. There are some key points you need to make sure are in a CV, your skills, your career objective, your work experience. Make sure your CV is complete. If you don't spend time on your CV, you're harming your chances with the organization. You need to keep in mind that you're applying to a position amongst other candidates applying to that same position, so you're in competition with them. How do you stand out from the competition? By presenting a perfect CV that fits the needs of the recruiter. So spend some time on a CV. We've gone through it in past episodes. Make sure to check that out to understand exactly what you need to put in a CV and why it's important for the recruiter. Next mistake, overlooking the cover letter. Now, for the companies you really want to apply to and for the companies that have explicitly asked for a cover letter in their application form, don't overlook this aspect. The cover letter is an important way for you to communicate to the interviewer directly in a way that fits outside of the structure of a CV. Now, a CV is pretty rigid. You have your certain format, you have your certain sections that you need to express yourself within. But in a cover letter, it's your opportunity to write in full sentences, have that initial conversation, one-way conversation with the recruiter, telling them about yourself, pointing their attention to certain aspects of your qualifications, of your experiences, letting them know how you fit into the organization and how you bring value to the position they're looking to hire for. So although it does take some time to write a cover letter, make sure you write a cover letter depending on the company you're applying to. So don't write a generic one and just send it out to everyone. That will harm your chances. Write a cover letter for each position you're applying to that you're really interested in applying for, or for the companies that have explicitly mentioned that they want a cover letter. We have broken down a cover letter in detail in this episode. You'll find the link right here. So check that out to know exactly how to go about it. Another mistake, poor networking. A lot of people go about their networking just at the time of need. They need a job right now, so then they start networking, sending out friend requests, connection requests, tweeting certain people. That's not the way you go about it. If you want people to really refer you to positions, if you want to really leverage the connections you've built, you need to build real connections with people, genuine relationships with people, at least in the online space. And this is done very easily. Whether you're tweeting at people or engaging with people's content online, it's very easy to post some of your content, comment on other people's content, build real relationships with people online without expecting a return in the immediate time. Right? So when the time comes for a vacancy that you're interested in, you can really leverage that relationship that you've built with someone, that real relationship that you've built with someone online, to have them refer you to that position or to understand from them their future hiring needs. So then it allows you to prepare ahead of time. Building real relationships in the online space doesn't happen overnight. You need to spend some time. Start right now. Find people online within your industry and start engaging with them without expecting an immediate return. It will pay off in the future. It's a long-term game, but building these connections will help you either in the positions within the connections companies, or if they can refer you to another company with their friends that they know they're hiring for, but at least they've learned something about you beyond you wanting a job right now. So start networking immediately. It's incredibly easy in the online space. You really have no excuse. Another mistake a lot of people are guilty of, especially after the phone interview or the physical interview, are follow-ups, careless follow-ups. Most people spend too much time following up and follow up too much or too frequently. Other people neglect this process altogether and don't follow up at all. We need to find a healthy balance there. What this means is right after your phone interview or your physical interview, one question to cap it off is, when can I expect a response from you? Then that gives you an average timeline or an estimated timeline of when to expect a response. Gives you also an opportunity to follow up with the recruiter, letting them know, it's been a week since, I'd love to know where I stand with our application. Had a great interview with you last time. I'd love to know the next steps. It gives you an excuse to follow up with them. Follow up every 2 to 3 weeks, maybe one follow-up email. A phone call might be a little too intrusive or too disturbing for the recruiter at times, again, depending on the recruiter, but generally email follow-up is accepted practice. 2 to 3 weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks, just to know the status. It shows as well your interest in the occupation, in the job that you've applied to, without being too annoying to the recruiter. You don't want to send them a message right after you sent your CV, another message right after the interview is a good idea, actually. Send them a thank you email right after the interview, and then follow up 2 to 3 weeks after then. But find a nice, consistent basis on which to follow up, and understanding from the recruiter their timelines, so you know when it's acceptable to follow up. Another mistake, weak interview skills. Now, an interview isn't something you could just walk into and improvise or just wing it on the spot. Regardless of how confident you are in your speaking abilities, there are a lot of skills that you need to prepare for and be equipped with before stepping into the interview. Body language, tone of voice, knowledge about the company. There are things you need to prepare for ahead of time, and things that recruiters are trained to pick up on if you don't have mastered. We've done a lot of episodes about interview skills and the various different aspects within phone interviews and physical interviews, how to answer certain questions. I encourage you to look these things up, prepare yourself for the interview. Interviews are generally the first step that really sell yourself to the company. They've loved your CV, they've called you in for the interview. Now it's really time for you to secure that position and let the recruiter know that you deserve that job. Now, these aren't all the mistakes in the world that one can make in the job search process, but these are the common mistakes, the most common mistakes that we've come across during our time in the market, and that's why I really felt the need to address them to you. In fact, we have addressed almost every single mistake in this episode in its own dedicated episode in one way or another. I encourage you to go through the Career Talk playlist and watch these episodes. They bring value in different aspects throughout your job search process to make sure you ace every single stage. And that's all I have for you in this week's episode of Bayt.com's Career Talk. I hope that was valuable for you. Make sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube, weekly episodes. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook as well for the latest updates. And I'll see you all next week.